Iron Man 2 is a sequel to the really successful and really awesome Iron Man, and the third movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, because the first Iron Man was as great a movie as it was, people were naturally going into Iron Man 2 with big expectations. The question, however, remains, how well can it compare with Iron Man? Because everyone out there will agree with two things. One, Iron Man is one of the coolest superhero movies ever made, so that alone sets the bar very high. And two, it's always a very rare sight that a sequel ends up being as good or even better than its predecessor. So, let's see how it compares. So Iron Man 2 opens up in Russia. We see this really sick old man named Anton Vanko. He and his son Ivan Vanko are watching Tony Stark's press conference, you know, when he reveals himself to be Iron Man. They both harbor a lot of hate towards the Stark family, which I'll get more to in a minute. And eventually Anton Vanko dies, which leads to Ivan Vanko building his own arc reactor. He does this through the guidance of this very old blueprint that has his father's name on it, right next to the name Howard Stark, which now officially gets the wheel spinning in knowing that these two apparently worked with each other at one point. Now the movie flashes forward 6 months after Tony gave the press conference and revealed that he was Iron Man, and we find out that he has been going through a lot. For starters, now that the world has seen what the Iron Man suit is and just how powerful it is as a weapon, the US government wants Tony Stark to turn it over to the United States. Tony, however, is completely against that in the fact that he feels he is the one and only Iron Man and therefore should be the only one who should wear the suit, and also in the fact that no other country outside the United States has been able to perfect the technology to make an Iron Man suit. So naturally, with Tony being the only one who really knows how to create this technology, America should have nothing to worry about. Tony, on the other hand, does have something to worry about. Because at this point we learn that the palladium core in his arc reactor is slowly poisoning him, and if he cannot find a replacement element, then he is going to die from it. Which makes it really tough because apparently no other element is capable as serving a viable replacement for the arc reactor. This in part leads to Tony naming Pepper as the new CEO of Stark Industries, while Scarlett Johansson becomes Tony's new assistant. Now Tony chooses to go to Monaco to drive a race car that he's sponsoring for a big race there. Way to live like you're dying, man. Tim McGraw would be proud. Unfortunately, Vanko has tracked down Tony Stark to Monaco, and now he's armed with these two electric whips that's powered by his own arc reactor. And this dude is just taking out cars. He nearly kills Tony with these. But Tony is able to get his hands onto his suitcase that can apparently transform into an Iron Man suit for him to use. That by itself is pretty awesome. So now the two throw down mano-a-mano for a little bit before Tony beats him by tearing out the arc reactor that he's using so the authorities can take him away. So naturally, Tony goes to confront Vanko in prison to try to figure out why the hell this guy just tried to butcher him. Vanko says that the Stark family is full of thieves, they've taken the credit that doesn't belong to them, and it's ultimately what led to his own family's issues. And while he didn't kill Tony, he did just show the world that Iron Man is not invincible. So Vanko is officially placed in prison, but shortly afterwards is released by Tony's business rival, Justin Hammer. He's the primary weapons contractor for the US government, and his goal is to completely upstage Tony by making a weapon that would even make the Iron Man suit look like shit. And now that he's seen what Vanko is capable of building, he has now decided to bring him on board to help with this project. So now Tony is under even heavier fire because now the world has seen that Tony's in fact not the only one who can make this technology, and now that just gives much more of a reason that he should give up the Iron Man suit. And his friend Rhodey, who's now played by Don Cheadle, he's getting a little pissed off in the fact that Tony's not really taking any of this seriously while Rhodey's out there trying to back him up. And Tony just officially crosses the line with Rhodey during his birthday party when he just gets hammered drunk and starts acting completely irresponsibly while wearing the Iron Man suit. So now Rhodey takes one of Tony's older suits, and now the two just start throwing down with each other. It ends with them both just firing their repulsors at each other, which creates a massive explosion that basically destroys Tony's mansion. So the next morning, Tony is confronted by Nick Fury, and here he tells Tony a little bit more about the relationship between Howard Stark and Anton Vanko. Apparently the original arc reactor that the two developed together was meant to lead into a new usage for energy. Anton Vanko, however, intended to sell it to the Soviet Empire, which led to Howard Stark having him arrested for treason. And now his son is pissed off at Tony, and he's gonna stop at nothing to kill him. So now Fury and Scarlett Johansson, who reveals herself as S.H.I.E.L.D. agent Natasha Romanoff, they assign Tony with the task of recreating a new element that can keep Tony alive. Meanwhile, as all this has been happening, Rhodey has returned to his military base, now in the possession of what they've always wanted, an Iron Man suit. I don't know about you, but if I was him, I would have been like, so hey, I kind of brought the military what they've wanted from Tony Stark this whole time, so am I getting a promotion now? Okay, so he didn't get a promotion, but his own Iron Man suit is still pretty cool. And what's also cool is they have Justin Hammer come in to just upgrade it with really awesome weaponry. This includes a shotgun, machine guns, a Gatling gun, and apparently a missile that can just destroy everything in its way called the Ex-Wife. Now America has 2 Iron Men at its disposal. Nobody's gonna fuck with us now. So in the meantime, Tony's able to hit a breakthrough in figuring out what exactly the new element is. He studies an old city diorama that his father built, which once he deconstructs it, he figures out is actually the atomic structure for the new element. Now it's time for extreme home makeover, and he just uses what he has in his home to build an element maker thingy. I don't know what it is. But whatever he builds, it works, and now he finally has a new element for the arc reactor. So now things are finally looking up for Tony. Justin Hammer, in the meantime, things aren't going well for him. But that doesn't really bother us because he's a douche. Vanko has reprogrammed the suits that Hammer wanted him to work on. He turned them into droids, which now has Justin Hammer seeing that Vanko has different intentions. And we soon see these come to fruition when Justin Hammer tries to present these droids and the War Machine armor to everybody. And Vanko just starts controlling the droids along with the War Machine armor to kill Tony. Luckily though, Natasha Romanoff is able to reprogram the War Machine suit so Rhodey can control it once again. Right after she took out basically the entire security team that was in the building. Which I thought was awesome, because now you see that Scarlett Johansson wasn't just placed in this movie solely for eye candy. Well, she is, but she can also fight and contribute to help get the mission taken care of, which I thought was cool. So now that Tony and Rhodey can fight together, they're able to make quick work of the droids in an awesome scene of shooting, explosions, and a fucking laser beam that just can cut these things right in half. Unfortunately though, there's still one other droid that they have to deal with. Oh, but wait, it's not a droid, it's Ivan Vanko in his own suit of armor armed with new electric whips. So that is what he was working on the whole time. During the fight, however, Rhodey and Tony are once again able to concentrate their repulsors at each other, which creates a massive shockwave that incapacitates Vanko. But it's still not quite over yet, as Vanko now activates a bomb in his suit and every other droid to blow up. Thankfully though, Rhodey and Tony are able to escape this explosion and also save Pepper just before she can be killed by one of these bombs. And then she just goes on one of these rants towards Tony, which kind of sounds like, "Dealing with you is so exhausting, you are the biggest pain in the ass ever, but I can't live without you." So it's essentially the argument that every couple has with each other on several occasions. In the meantime, Nick Fury tells Tony that for now, the Avengers just want to use him as a consultant. And then the movie ends with him and Rhodey getting medals for saving everyone, conveniently from the guy who was trying to get Tony to turn over the Iron Man armor. Then in this movie's post-credits scene, we see Agent Coulson in New Mexico standing over this big crater. Then he gets on the phone with Nick Fury and he says, "Sir, we found it." Then the camera pans down and we see that it is this big hammer in the middle of the crater, which now has everyone pumped to see that in the next movie we're getting Thor. And don't worry, I get a video for that coming out soon. So all in all, I think Iron Man 2 is a good movie, but it does have its flaws. Robert Downey Jr., he's still awesome as Iron Man. Gwyneth Paltrow, I love her as Pepper. I think Don Cheadle plays a much better Rhodey than Terrence Howard, and it's great seeing him become War Machine in this movie. The visuals are really cool. The action when it goes down is pretty great. That being said, I don't think Mickey Rourke is the most memorable villain we've gotten in the MCU. And it's not because he does a bad job as Ivan Vanko. I think it's because he's not in this movie as much as I would have liked him to be. Also, I don't really feel Scarlett Johansson owns the role as Black Widow in this movie. I do think she eventually does own the role of Black Widow as these movies go on, but for now you watch and you think they could have gotten any hot actress to play her in this movie. I also wasn't a huge fan of all the storylines that are in this movie. You know, it goes from Iron Man keeping the suit away from the government, then it goes from Tony trying to find a new element, then it goes from Justin Hammer and Ivan Vanko trying to make a droid army. I've always said the key to a great movie is to have a very clear and direct plot point. Iron Man 2 seems to be in several different places at once, and I do think that can be a problem at times. With all that being said, I do think Iron Man 2 is still a fun and enjoyable movie, and certainly one that's worth watching. So that's all I gotta say, guys. Thank you so much for watching my video. Don't forget to leave a comment, like, subscribe, and I will see you all next time.